Okay, let's do an experiment. Let's Google something. Famous directors. Well, I've already done that, so I'll just read you the first names on the list. Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson, David Lynch, Tim Burton, James Cameron, David Fincher, Francis Ford Coppola, Ridley Scott, George Lucas, Orson Welles, Spike Lee, Woody Allen, Sofia Coppola, Clint Eastwood, Michael Bay, Akira Kurosawa, Guillermo del Toro, Peter Jackson, Roman Polanski, Paul Thomas Anderson, etc., etc. Now, with a few exceptions like Wes Anderson, Guillermo del Toro, and Christopher Nolan, the main creative period of this gentleman was in 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The reason I'm saying this is I recently watched an interview with a guy called Chris Gore. I've included the link in the description below. And although I personally find him very charming and intelligent and knowledgeable, and I agree with him on many points, I would still like to mention a few things that are often said nowadays by film fans and YouTubers who keep pondering why the movies today are so bad. Now, first of all, the movies today aren't necessarily bad. They aren't. American blockbusters are. American blockbusters are not the movies. They are movies. They are just not the movies. If you watch nothing else, it's a bit like sustaining yourself on a diet of burgers and fried chicken and chips. Those are yummy, but come on, it's not really something that you would call a varied diet, is it? Why is the pop music nowadays so bad? Why is it that in the past you could have bands like the Beatles and ABBA, Boney M, with so many hits that are still fondly remembered and covered many times over? And why is it that the stuff you hear on the radio today is so tasteless? If you say that films today are bad because they lecture you, because they have some kind of social justice agenda, or because they need to be sold overseas, primarily to China, or that the Americans have lost their identity, and that this is one of the main reasons why Hollywood has stopped making good films, then why is it that we hardly get any talented musicians anymore? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we still have plenty of talented musicians, but most people don't know about them. So why is the mainstream pop music so bad? Not just American pop music, but pop music everywhere. And it's true, some films, they do try to lecture you. And true, some films don't have these typically American characters or settings. But guess what? That does make them bad. The lecturing aspect is only one small part of the film, and it doesn't make it boring. It can be mildly irritating to some, moderately irritating maybe, but that's about it. Same goes for the internationalism. Even if Americans sometimes miss their films feeling properly baldy-eagly, for the rest of the world this isn't really an issue. And yet, people outside the US, we still acknowledge that modern-day American blockbusters are sucky. It's not the fault of the social justice warrior movement that the studios keep producing the same stuff over and over again. I don't think some left-wing movement is responsible for the Fast and Furious franchise surviving as long as it has, or The Force Awakens having so many similarities with another installment in the series. Well, it is our fault, isn't it? It's our fault because we let them, because we watch their stuff. Then there was some conservative English YouTuber who was bemoaning the lack of complex storytelling in modern cinema. But again, it's not that, is it? In the past, you didn't really need to have complex storytelling to have an enjoyable and original film. Just like Commando, Pretty Woman, Gremlins, Money Pit, Independence Day. Even though it will probably seem quite cringy nowadays. Independence Day, Speed, pretty much anything that Schwarzenegger and Stallone did back in the day. Yeah, I said original, even though, okay, you wouldn't consider them original, but they all had their own heart or soul, or call it what you may. I think films nowadays are actually more complicated than they ever were. We also hardly get any surprise hits like Get Out, or if you delve further into the past, Clarks. We don't have a Kevin Smith anymore, let's put it this way. Because I suppose maybe we, as an audience, we've stopped taking risks in our viewing habits. Because maybe there are so many reviews available online. Not only do we feel hesitant giving indie productions a shot, but we only feel the need to check cynical review websites like Rotten Tomatoes before making up our mind. Now, I personally believe it was 3 films in particular that have fucked up today's cinematic landscape. It was Casino Royale, it was Batman Begins, or the entire Dark Knight trilogy, and Iron Man. Now, Iron Man I don't need to explain. Had it not been so successful, the playbills today might not be so cluttered with superhero content. Or maybe there still would be, I don't know. But we'll never find out. Now, Casino Royale. Casino Royale, what it did, it demystified the main protagonist, who did not need to be demystified. Bond used to be cool, suave. He used to have gadgets. He used to have a sense of humor. The films used to be imaginative. And then someone went and said, let's strip the franchise of everything that made it popular. See what happens. And people swallowed it. And this is something that I, until today, haven't managed to grasp. How is it possible that someone completely defaces a franchise like that without suffering the consequences? You might argue that this is because the audience has grown up. But really, has it? Or is it actually suffering the Benjamin Button effect and is actually developing backwards? I honestly don't know. Oh, and then we have Christopher Nolan and his Batman, which basically did the same as Daniel Craig's Bond. Grittiness, an over-explaining, and a total lack of playfulness and spontaneity. If, say, Tim Burton was a magician who would show you magic tricks, then Chris Nolan is a cynical engineer who shows you how magic tricks work, with diagrams and blueprints and whatnot. But coming back to what I was saying before, we've literally got thousands of films from the previous decades. Do you really mean to tell me that you've seen all the good ones? Now, if you want quality rather than just superheroes and fast cars with sweaty Vin Diesels in them, I'll just assume you wouldn't mind foreign films either. When I say foreign, I mean non-English speaking, of course. So why not, start with British productions to soften the culture shock, and then explore China, Japan, Korea, France, Italy, Russia. Just open Netflix, go to the international section. Why not do that? But even if you absolutely must stick with Hollywood, there are still treasures out there that you've never even heard of. So go explore. Go and explore. Now, I'm not trying to be all intellectual here. I like to be entertained, just like you. Life is too short to be wasted on boring pretentiousness. I know you might say, stop trying to teach me what to watch. But that's exactly what the studios do. They teach you and you let them, with your dollars and pounds and euros and what have you. So ultimately it wasn't just Christopher Nolan or Jon Favreau or Joss Whedon who contributed to the current state of affairs. It was you. And me. Sure. I'm not denying I'm guilty as well. Now lastly, and that may be the main reason why we keep saying that the films are so bad today, it's because we don't compare them to the films of the 1980s and 90s. We compare them to our memories of those films, which basically means that modern day productions invariably lose out. Have a good day.